This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 112. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's a fantastic day, my friends, my free-heeling buddies around the world. Stoked to be back for another fine episode of the podcast. Always loving these conversations, and we are in the heart of winter. I hope you are dropping knees and your legs are getting into shape and you're doing all those right things to make those days in the mountains even better. So let's hop right into this. Got some items of business to talk about. Our buddies over at Telemark, Colorado have announced their annual Kings and Queens of the Heel Telemark video competition. And if you're not familiar with this is one of the cooler things I think going on in Telemark. I believe this is the third year. And it's a competition, video competition, invites Telemark crews from anywhere in the world to compete on and off the snow challenges worth points from the 2022 task booklet. Filming these challenges and then producing an edit. The challenges can vary greatly from directly tele-focused, such as a switch tele bump run, drop your first knee, telepark challenges, to general non-tele ski challenge shenanigans like slamming 10 McDonald's sausage biscuits on the drive up to the mountain, slam a beverage can under your binding while in a tele turn, get a tele tattoo, which I'm obviously a fan of. And a fun part of this comp is the challenge list is that it's built to allow teams from seasoned cliffhuckers to operate pros to all equally participate and be part of the competition. So that is what the Kings and Queens of the Heel competition is all about. It's really cool. It allows everybody in their various parts of the world to be able to participate in this. And I absolutely love that. So video submissions are due April 1st, 2022. And go to their website, Telemark, Colorado, to get more information. Download that booklet and start getting after it. Next, talked with the crew at the shop. Demos are available. So this is the time of year a lot of people are trying Telemark, traveling into Salt Lake and might need to pick up gear. We've got full NTN setups, boots, skis, and bindings. And 2 days worth of that demo can go towards a full package. So you can try it and buy it kind of thing. If you have questions on that, hit up the team at customer service at freeheellife.com. And they would love to help you out. Also, don't forget, we have a consignment section, and if you are looking to upgrade gear and dump off some old gear, we've got the place for you. It's the largest selection of used Telemark gear in the world in one place, and it's a great way to get it in front of a lot of eyeballs. So we would love to see some more used gear coming in at this point. And if you don't live in Salt Lake and you want to ship it, there are ways to do that. So reach out and we can kind of help you out. All right, moving on from some of that back into some of the events that are going on. People have been emailing me and letting me know what's up in the Telemark world, and I love that. This is from one of our friends to the north up in Canada, and they're planning some tele meetups, and the first one is tonight, January 17th, 6 p.m. at Hollyburn Hiking Trailhead. And this is a group that's doing tele meetups every full moon. It's North Vancouver, North Shore Mountains. And it sounds like they had a good group in December repping the tele gear. And absolutely love that. I love these meetups. So if you want to get in touch with anybody there, go to Instagram and check out North Shore Telemark. At North Shore Telemark. Big shout out to you guys doing the full moon hikes. I love that. And like I said, any size of meetups that you guys want me to get out, I will put it out. Like I said, this is Telemark Pirate Radio at its finest. And this is a great opportunity to gather folks and make sure that they've got friends to telemark with. So, coming up this week, January 22nd, I mentioned this one, Cabernet Peaks in Cadillac, Michigan. We've got the Lower Peninsula Pinhead Reunion. Get some Michigan. Also, in Japan, January 22nd, We Telemark is having an event with clinics and a gathering. Awesome stuff from the We Telemark group over there in Japan. Deanna is doing a great job putting that together. If you didn't listen to that podcast, check it out. Then, moving into February. Can't believe it's that already, or going to be soon. February 26th and 27th in Vermont, Bromley, 36th annual Corey Anderson Telemark Festival. And hopefully you enjoyed that chat with Greg last week. We were talking about that. If not, scope it out and you can learn a little bit more about Corey, the wonderful legacy that he's left, and all the great people that are carrying on that torch at Bromley, in New England, in Vermont. Saturday, March 5th, annual World Telemark Day celebration. Mark your calendars, get your gatherings together. It is a time of festivities, my brothers and sisters of the turn, and you can do it anywhere you are at in the world. And then if you're back up in New England, Mad River Glen, Freeheel Frolic, March 11 and 12, it's happening. So that's what's going on in the telemark world these days, and coming up, this week and also next week. Thanks to everybody that came out to the Midwest demo with Motor City Tele and Freeheel Life Midwest. Much love, and we appreciate you all. All right. Lots of business side of the house today. That's good. That means there's lots of stuff going on and plenty to talk about. But I want to get into this episode. Oh, man. My guest today is a true original in every sense of the word. He's a telemarker, a mountain man, a free spirit, and a lover of having time. He spent over 2 decades living in a hut that he built in the Wasatch Mountains of Utah, working as a ski patroller at Deer Valley to pay his bills. His life and story were first exposed to me when we both appeared in Powderwhore's first telemark movie, PW05, back in 2005. He's authored 4 books about his life and is currently working on a 5th. And I'm proud to know this beautiful human being, and I'm always so inspired to live my life to the fullest after I talk to him. So please welcome to the podcast, Todd Stuart. All right, my brother. Welcome to the Freeheel Life podcast. How you doing, man?
I am doing great. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing well, man. I loved it. I love that you called me and left a message right before this and said, I'm sitting in a ski parking lot, Brundage, I believe, and I have 4 bars, which I couldn't have wanted a better voicemail to I was like, that's so Todd. Like he like came out of the woods and found 4 bars near a ski resort and is calling me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was 4 bars. I can't say it's going to be 4 bars.
Yeah.
From here on in, but it was when I parked here. So I went and took a few runs, and I'm back. And
Nice.
awful glad to be on skis again.
I love it. How's the snow up there in Idaho?
Right now, it's great. Soft and silky.
Did you guys get some storms this last cycle?
Yeah, it snowed like 40 inches in the last week.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Man, that's sweet.
So,
I've always wanted to go to Brundage. I've always heard that's the one right outside of McCall, right?
Yeah. And I love it. It's not steep and extreme like Snowbird and Alta, but they get plenty of snow. And, at my age, I don't need a steep and extreme mountain, okay? I'm just happy to cruise through the glades and on the groomers.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, man. I think that's something we've always bonded over. Before I kind of want to go back and kind of get your whole story, obviously, but because for people that don't know your whole background, but kind of where we met. I mean, dude, I still remember where meeting you for the first time, because you and I had back-to-back segments in the first Powderwhore movie in PW05, and I think in that time, especially, I had like all these piercings, and I'm like kind of this rocker dude, and you were, I would say, quite the opposite. But man, we bonded right off the bat and have been friends ever since. And I've always thought that was pretty cool. We've got the same Telemark spirit within us,
Well, if your heel is free and your mind is free, then you understand that to each his own.
Yep.
And I respect everyone who respects me, and that's the way it works.
Yep. I wish more of us did that.
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful, man. And
so,
go ahead.
I love what you do with the Freeheel in the park. I looked at what you did in PW05, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I didn't know that kind of stuff went on. And, the hours and hours of practice that you've put in, and times you've bitten those rails with your face. I don't know. I always tried to miss obstacles, but, you guys are amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I'm definitely not doing that these days, but I remember, what's funny is, I remember watching your segment way back then. I mean, it's crazy to think. I mean, that was over 15 years ago, but I remember watching you ski your equipment that you were skiing on and thinking, I mean, you talk about silky turns, man. I mean, the technique on the gear that you were skiing, and that was, it's art, man. And it's I hope people continue to like try that kind of lighter gear, that you were skiing on, because it's so hard to articulate what it takes to do those kinds of turns. And if people can find that video, I'll see if I can find a link and put it in here. But it's a turn from like a different era. And it's cool. I don't know how to explain it. It's just beautiful, man.
Well, it's kind of like fly fishing. The lighter your equipment, the more delicate feel you have, right? And so, to land a 20-pound steelhead on a 6-weight fly rod it takes a lot more skill, than landing a steelhead by throwing a piece of dynamite in the water, So, like when I learned to telemark at Alta in '77, there was no other option. You learn to telemark on real skinny, like 2-inch wide wood skis with no steel edges and little 3-pin bindings and little leather boots that were like lightweight hiking shoes, and we're out there skiing untracked, perfect snow. And in order to really succeed, you had to use perfect technique, And so, we learned to do that. There was no other option. And the wonderful thing about it is that to make it work the best, you got to get really low. You got to really bend your knees, which makes the powder seem deeper and deeper. So
you definitely were always getting face shots before everybody.
Right. But we were skiing, like I've skied Superior on that kind of gear. And, it sounds like a bullshit story, but it's true. And I'm not the only one, that did it. Skied Baldy Chutes and Devil's Castle, Apron. We were just dumb enough. No one told us we couldn't do that, So.
Well, and nowadays it's like that stuff gets skied like immediately. I mean, Superior sometimes is tracked out like before 10 o'clock, which is...
Isn't that amazing?
It's unbelievable because I think even in my era, and I'm like, that just didn't happen. And then you think about like when you guys were doing it, I mean, it must have been like there was a couple tracks. I can't imagine there was that many people doing it.
There were nobody, hardly anyone was doing it, But I went up there once with a friend of mine from the Peruvian, and we were, 19, 20 years old, didn't know any better. And it was 4 feet of new snow, and we went up there. Do you remember Paul Raymer?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Raymer bindings. I had the self-arrest ski poles.
Oh, the purple ones with the plastic handle with the little ice axe on it.
Yeah.
I have a pair of those at the shop.
Oh, good. Well, I take off down. I didn't ski the face of Superior from the top. It's what we call Little Superior. It's a side ridge on skiers left of the actual, middle of the drainage. But, a couple, 3 turns into it, that handle popped off and my pole was up the hill from me and I still had the handle in my hand.
Oh, geez.
So I made a stop, I stopped real hard. And that action set off the biggest slide I've ever set off. That broke 4 feet deep. I had to climb back up the crown to get my pole.
Oh.
And while this, was going on below me, and, luckily the guy I was with was smart enough to, you stay on the ridge so that when it does break, if it breaks, it's going to slide away from you, So,
jeez,
I got my pole and skied the rest of it, and we got to the bottom, and the snow ranger was down at the bottom going, I thought you guys were going to do that, but I wasn't really sure. You're awful. You're really lucky.
Oh, man.
Do you know who Ono was?
Yeah, Ono that was running Alta for a bunch of years.
Yeah, he was a snow ranger back then, working under Binks Sandall for the Utah Little Cottonwood Canyon, or he's working for the Forest Service, and then he switched back to Alta ski lifts. But anyway, we're still friends. He hangs out up around Glacier.
Oh, I love that, man. Well, so I forget now. Did you grow up in Salt Lake City?
No, I grew up in a little. It's actually an artist town south of Provo.
An artist town south of Provo. What was it called?
Springville.
Oh, no way. You grew up in Springville, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Do you know that's essentially where I was born too, man?
Really?
Yeah, I was born in the Provo Hospital. My parents lived in Springville, and I've got a bunch of... That was kind of where all my family came from, was that area in Springville.
Well, so you've been to the art museum.
I never... Actually, no, I haven't. I feel like... Because I ended up moving away and not coming back to Utah till I was, like junior high. But that's funny. Okay, so you grew up in Springville. Did you grow up skiing then?
I started skiing when I was 12, when I moved to Springville, my family moved to Orem when I was 4, I think, 4 or 5. And then when I was 12, we moved to Springville. And nobody I knew in Orem skied. But when we moved to Springville, all the cool kids I wanted to be in with were skiers.
Huh.
And so one of them gave me his old skis when he got some new ones for Christmas. And I got hooked. You know, my first year, I was like, I've never seen something so beautiful as Timpanogos, the Sleeping Maiden. I was just in love, you know, and hooked on skiing immediately. You know.
Were you guys going all the way to because Sundance wouldn't have been a thing until much later? Where were you guys? Were you coming up to Salt Lake to go ski, or where was that all going down?
Sundance was where I took my first lift ride.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So is this?
Yeah.
I'm trying to even think. I'm like aging you more than you are.
No. That's complete honesty here. Nothing to hide.
No, I was trying to. Yeah. Like, so when was that? Like in the 70s?
Yeah. 71 was the year Snowbird opened.
Okay.
And Sundance was already Sundance. It was Timp Haven before that.
Oh, so there was something that Redford. I didn't realize that. I thought Redford was the one that kind of started that after.
No, it was actually the Stewart family started Timp Haven, and we used to go up there sledding. They had a rope tow and a sled hill, and then they got ski lifts. But you know, I didn't know anybody who skied when I was, you know, from age 4 to 12. And, you know, I was not allowed to go up there or whatever. But, I mean, my mom took us on drives up there in the summertime over the Alpine Loop, just because, you know, the minute I saw real mountains when we moved to Utah, I was hooked. I thought, you know, coming from LA, I thought that was all just pictures. I didn't know that stuff really existed, you know. But then when we got going up I-15 and I saw the Tushar Mountains, you know, outside of Beaver, I was like, holy smoke, that's real, you know. And I couldn't take my eyes off them, you know. And then you get to Mount Nebo and then Timpanogos, and I was like, holy smoke, thanks, Mom. I didn't know we were moving to such a cool place, you know.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's crazy.
So.
Well, so you grew up skiing with friends, you know, in kind of through your teenage years, and then did you? You mentioned you ended up at Alta at some point. Was that kind of like post high school? Did you end up moving right up into kind of going skiing up in Little Cottonwood, or what was the whole, like, basically what took that passion from being a teenager, and then like how did you end up? Because you ended up skiing a bunch later on. Well, maybe fill us in.
It was kind of funny because, you know, when I was waiting for my mom to come and pick me up at Sundance, I could see from like the cafeteria back into the back room, like where the tree room is now. And they had a fireplace back there, and all the young ski bums were back there drinking beer by the fire, laughing and flirting, and they were the happiest people I had ever seen. And I swore to myself, I said, that is who I'm going to be, okay? They don't have to go home. They live here. So I vowed, you know, deep in my soul, when I grow up, I'm going to live at a ski area, you know? So I didn't know how I was going to do it. But then after I got out of high school, I remember, you know, I had skied at Snowbird and Alta a bunch, and I just loved it. And I was laying on the living room floor, reading the Salt Lake Tribune and the Sunday paper and the want ads, and it said Cook wanted at at Snowbird. So I said, bingo, there it is. So it was Memorial Day weekend in 1977, something like that. And I went up there and got a cook job at the Keyhole in the bottom of the Cliff Lodge, and found a place to live at the Hellgate condos. And here it is, right out of high school, and I'm cooking and living at Alta.
Wow. That's amazing.
Well, it's a stroke of luck, that's for sure. You know.
Well, I feel like back then too, like you said, Snowbird opened in 71. I mean, it's a relatively new resort at that point, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, coming from Sundance, if people are not familiar with Utah, I mean, going from Sundance, which is an awesome resort that a lot of people have not skied, it's awesome. But you jump up to Snowbird, I mean, the terrain is a lot bigger, a lot more vertical, and I'm venturing to guess that in 1977 the Powder was pretty deep and probably not a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, sitting there as a kid and you'd read, the ski report, and Sundance, I think the bottom of Sundance, well, the top of Sundance is way below the bottom of Snowbird. Okay. And Sundance, visually is stunning, but it's just at the very bottom of Timpanogos, and so there's not a lot of snow there. And, when I was skiing there at Sundance and then looking at the ski report, and 84 new inches at Snowbird. That's got to be a lie. Come on, I don't believe that, right? So, my second year of skiing, Snowbird. Have you heard the name Junior Benoist?
Oh, I have heard that. I don't know. I'm not from. Yeah, fill me in. I have heard that name though.
Junior Benoist was one of Utah's 3 Olympians back when I was growing up. We had Alf Engen and Stein Erickson and Junior Benoist. And Junior was the director of skiing at Sundance. And then he moved to running the ski school at Snowbird. And when I discovered Snowbird was that when I was growing up in Springville, they signed us up for 6 lessons, 6 lift tickets, and 6 bus rides from Springville to Snowbird for $100.
Wow.
So I moved from Sundance to Snowbird, and I got, off of the trail at Big Emma, and one of the baskets on my pole kind of broke, right? So I went off the trail and stuck my pole in to see how deep it was, right? And it went all the way to my hand, and then I stuck my arm down further and all the way to my armpit. And I says, it's true. It's really true. It is really that deep, And then as the season progressed, I watched these huge boulders disappear that we were jumping off a couple months ago. Now they're gone, So.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
The verification of the snow report.
Yeah.
Oh man. So how many years did you stay up in Little Cottonwood? Was it like something you did for a few years? And I mean, what was the whole trajectory? Like, did you end up ski bumming for a while?
Yeah. I moved to Alta in the summer of 77. And then I lucked into what I think is the best ski job in the whole canyon, maybe the whole world. I was the chef at the Shallow Shaft Steakhouse. So I got to live under the steakhouse and eat and drink like a king and ski all day at Alta and flip steaks at night. And, I don't know how it could get any better.
That's a pretty good gig.
Yeah. I mean, the guy who owned the place, he was really smart. He just thought, I just need to get some kids in here who can do the job and who love it here, and I'll let them eat and drink anything, right? Just stay here and keep the restaurant running because it's a huge gold mine, All these lodge guests at Alta who eat at their lodge, one night every week, they're going to come over to the Shallow Shaft and get something different. But I mean, we were closed all day. I come in at 3:30 and cut steaks and cook the baked potatoes, and And, the dishwasher could be out till sweep. He didn't have to come in till later, but, I hired Marshall Yorgi to be my dishwasher. And he later was the Marshal of Alta. I don't know if you've heard about Yorgi. He was a legendary character, but.
No, but that sounds like a good guy to know later in life.
Well, he was. He was a legendary guy, but when I first met him, he had hair down to the middle of his back, and he was on acid. And we were climbing Timpanogos and skiing. He was a friend of a friend, and then he became we called him Jorgi Svensson, the Swedish soup maker. But he was just a really good skier, and he could play guitar like Dan Fogelberg, and we had so much fun.
That's a rad, man. I love those stories.
Yeah.
Well,
I stayed there for 4 years first.
Okay.
And then I came back in 87 and was the manager at the Hellgate and stayed there for a couple more years.
Wow. So the whole 80s, you're basically up Little Cottonwood.
No, 77 to 81. And then I got married and moved to Jackson Hole. And then I came back again in 87.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, so I'm trying to, this is great, man. I don't see it. This is what's funny is I kind of know like one section. I've read your first book, and I kind of know basics, but I don't know if I knew any of that. So it's super cool to hear kind of like that backstory to growing up in Springville to in Little Cottonwood. Because by the time I meet you, I know you as the guy living in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, like if you can, I really want to talk a little bit about how you got there and maybe from where we're at right now. Cause I'm curious myself. And I think the listeners would probably, if they're not familiar with your story, it might be kind of fun to guide them to how you became a true mountain man, in my opinion. I mean, legit.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing more real than living at 9,600 feet in the Wasatch in the winter and skiing to work and back. Okay. When you say legit, that's the real deal there. And, the big moral of the whole story is that adversity happens to people, and how you deal with adversity is an opportunity for you to grow as a human being and learn the lessons that life can teach you, And the reason I did that, I was managing the Hellgate with my beautiful wife and my 3 beautiful children, and I wanted to stay there for the rest of my life. That was my dream job, living right across the road from Superior and writing my own checks. I could ski at Alta and snowbird. I was my own boss. It was a great deal. But then when it falls apart, it falls apart. There's a lot of things that can affect your marriage that you have no control over. So, the reason I built that backcountry ski hut was so that I could live without an apartment or a car and still ski every day. Because I knew that I can handle anything as long as I'm skiing. Okay. And, so growing up in Little Cottonwood and skiing, extreme skiing around Little Cottonwood, you get really strong and everything else seems easy. So, I decided one summer to, and you read this in the book, and when tax time rolled around in April of, I guess it would be 1990, I learned that, okay, not only do you have child support to pay and a truck payment and car insurance, now because a custodial parent gets to claim children as a dependent, the non-custodial parent doesn't get to claim those children as dependents anymore. So your tax liability goes way up. So now I owe taxes in addition to all those other things. And even if I didn't eat anything, I couldn't make ends meet, So I was wandering around in the woods up between Deer Valley and Brighton and wondering how I was going to, retain my sanity and not be a deadbeat dad. And I found this little canyon where nobody goes. I mean, it was just obvious that nobody ever goes up there. And I thought, well, this is my chance. I'm going to do this. I'm going to sell my truck and camper and build a little hut here and ski and bike back and forth, work at Deer Valley, and, see how long that lasts. But I don't want to move to the city and get 3 jobs and be a bitter divorcee. I just got to ski every day, And we had, a fine selection of snow caves around Alta when I was there. And, I know you can stay warm all night in the mountains. Okay. So I didn't realize it was going to work so good, Josh. Are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm listening, bro. I'm just like, I'm always in awe talking to you, dude. Cause I think the most beautiful thing is it's like just hearing you. It's just so real how you talk about stuff, and you're always so genuine. So it's fun to kind of go back and hear how you came to that conclusion, just because I know the area too. And I still, after all these years, I still haven't been up there to where you're talking about, but I grew up skiing Brighton. I know the area fairly well. And I mean, I guess when you decide you're going to set this up, you're like you said, you sold your camper, sold your truck. You're like, I'm going to build a hut in the mountains. I mean, where do you even start when you're thinking about something like that? I mean, like were you like, I'm going to source all the materials? I mean, this is also 1989, you said,
Yeah.
I mean, where did you start? Like, did you design something or what? Or did you just do it?
When you live at Alta and you see the snowpack creep in the spring. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when in May and June, the snowpack can be so heavy, and if it's on a steep enough slope, it creeps down the hill, and it'll push anything over. There were buildings that were built up against Westward Ho at Alta, and there was so much snow up the hill from them that it was pushing these buildings off their foundation. They built them too close to the slope. And at the Hellgate, you have to plow the snow away from the buildings. Otherwise, that snow will creep down and crush the building. And so I knew I have to build this hut up against a cliff so that the snow will creep over it in the spring. So I found a cliff, and I thought, no one comes here. There's a spring right here. I'm just going to go ahead and build it right here, And then I told my friend, a ski patrol buddy, Johnny Miner, about it, and he came up and he wanted to build it together, and he was all excited. He wanted to do it together, but he wanted to do it really cool and take years to do it. And I was like, no, I have to live in it this winter. So it ended up being like the Three Little Pigs. I built my house of sticks and I had to live in it right away. And he built his house of stone, and both of them are still there, but mine got blown away by the big bad wolf by an avalanche in the Christmas of '08. And then I rebuilt it in a safer spot. But, they're both still there, and you can come up. I go there every summer just to make sure it's still, tidy, and people don't find it and think I don't care about the place, But
so
anyway.
so you start building, and so is it you said this was what, like April that you come up with this idea?
Well, it was in mid-April's tax time, so it was about then, and I was skiing and walking and hiking around there. It must have been a fairly light winter, but yeah, and then I kept the truck long enough to get a structure built, and then sold the truck, and then I just used logs that were there because there's a slide path there, right? I didn't build my hut right in the slide path. Okay, I knew not to do that. I built it, about 20 yards out of the slide path, something like that. And but the slide path had enough logs in it where I could use those to build a frame, and then I just put a tarp over the frame, and made a little wood stove out of a 35-gallon drum, and I had an air mattress that you blow up, and it was pretty rugged. I'll never forget stuffing logs inside of it when the first storm was going to bury all the logs I needed to use for firewood. I had to stuff them in the hut whole so I could saw them up later for firewood. And that first winter was pretty tough. I'd have to ski home from Deer Valley, which is 4 miles, breaking trail, and then start sawing firewood, burning it up as soon as I got there, But
wow. So you're basically, you come up with this idea, and then you've got to have it whatever condition it's in by, Wasatch, like October. You could get your first snow in October, and then depending on how it's going to go. What do you, you said it was a pretty heavy winter that first year. What do you remember being, aside from the log situation, was there anything else significant that first year? All of a sudden, that's what I'm trying to, people listening now. This is like legit, you're living out in the middle of the woods, and I don't know, was there anything else that just totally stuck out to you? Like,
well, yeah, you know how it gets.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, it gets dark at 4:30, right?
Yep.
And I'm getting off as a ski patrol at Deer Valley at 4:30. So instead of going to the bar like the rest of the guys, I'm booting up again in my cross country gear. Now I get to go break trail home, right? And I don't know if you remember Chuck English he was a ski patroller at Alta, and then he came over to Deer Valley. He was the mountain.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, he was the mountain manager at Deer Valley, and he knew what I was doing. I didn't keep it a secret, and this was before Deer Valley opened. We got one of those big fall storms, and there were cut banks at Deer Valley sliding, right? It was a big storm. And he knew I was hiking home that night. He goes, "Todd, you see how brittle this snow is, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I want you to work tomorrow morning. Don't do something stupid, And I said, "All right." So I vowed to myself, there's only one slide path that I usually traverse across on my way home. And I told myself, all right, this is what he's talking about. I'm going to cut below that slide path on my way home. But it was snowing so hard, and it was so soft, and it took me so long to get there that by the time I got to the slide path, I was whooped, breaking trail in waist deep snow and in the dark, I'm like, okay, I think I'm at the slide path now. So I gotta cut low here, And I got up to where I thought the path should be. This slide path is right by the pass between Lavina Creek and Snake Creek. or Pine Creek. And, I got there where I thought it should be, and it wasn't there, and so I was like, have to go back now. Like, I'm lost, and it's dumping, and it's the middle of the night, and so I had to go back, retrace my steps back to where I know where I'm at now. Okay, now I'm just going to go the way I have been going, and I traversed across the slide path, and it didn't slide, and then I got home. But when I got home, I stopped, and I immediately started shivering, because you're sweating when you're working that hard, and you get home, and you know how it is when you stop. And so I immediately, built a fire, shivering, and I had a can of Dinty Moore beef stew that was there, and it was frozen solid and kind of buckled up. You know how a can gets when it's frozen solid, but I put it on the stove, and I got it hot, and I was, standing there by the stove eating it, and realized it had taken me 5 hours to break trail home.
Oh my God.
And, I thought, well, it's not always going to be like this, Todd, but it sure is going to be fun to get back to work in the morning,
Wow. I mean,
so
what were you doing for light?
I had a Coleman lantern,
When you were breaking trail, though?
No, headlamp.
Okay, so you had a headlamp. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. I can't even imagine. I mean, even on light gear, I mean, you still got a pack with you, I'm assuming. I mean, like 5 hours of breaking trail, and sometimes that's snow. I mean, you're talking skinny skis too, and you're not on top.
No, you're not. You're pushing snow with your thighs, and it's hard work. Do you know who Anatoly Bukriv? Have you ever heard that name?
No, I haven't heard that one.
He was the Russian he was the hero of the big Mount Everest debacle years ago. Remember when Scott Fisher and
in the 90s. Yeah.
And those guys had that big problem on Everest. All those people died. Anatoly Bukriv was the Russian climber who could climb Everest with no oxygen, right? And he was the super stud that was up there and saving people's lives. And one of the quotes that I got from him was that there's nothing that is harder than breaking trail in deep snow up a steep mountain. It's kind of like Jack LaLanne swimming upstream up a river that's flowing against you.
Yeah,
it's really, really hard. And so anyway, let's all water under the bridge, and I didn't think it would. I thought I was going to get busted and kicked out, and then I'd have to do something else. But at least I tried, and I was going to ski my brains out until I had to do something different. But
and so you did. So you're a ski patroller at Deer Valley, and you're hiking in to work 4 miles, and you're hiking back out 4 miles every day.
Every day, yeah.
And
that's not true. I would go to town sometimes. Okay.
Oh, that
drink with my buddies, and I looked at it this way: beer is cheaper than psychotherapy. Okay.
There's your quote of the day.
Right. Now, you remember this quote in what's that? The Australian backcountry guy. Oh, it's a movie. Paul Hogan was the actor.
Oh, Crocodile Dundee.
Crocodile Dundee, and the lady's talking about, her analyst, and he's looking at her like, what's an analyst? It's like, oh, don't you have mates? Well, I would go to the bar and drink beer with my buddies to get, psychoanalysts, and, we're human and we're social animals. We have to have friends and people to talk to, so I can't just be a recluse. I have to, go to town and have fun sometimes. So, I didn't, ski home every night for 27 years. I go to town once in a while. And
well, that answers my question, was how many years was it? 27 years is how long it lasted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so incredible. Like, to think by the end of 27 years, I guess here, let me ask you a different question. How many years did it take you to become where you felt comfortable in the mountains, in the sense of just day to day, like it started to feel normal? I mean, how many years did it take, or maybe not even years? I don't know, but I'm just curious, because I mean, you're going from a fairly normal lifestyle, and then all of a sudden you're chopping wood. It's a full-time job just to stay alive, I'm sure, when it's cold outside.
Yeah.
I mean, Did you ever become comfortable, or was there always a sense of just?
Oh, no. No, here's the deal. If people are listening and they want to know how to become, an expert skier and a legitimate mountain man, move to Little Cottonwood Canyon and push the envelope. Okay. Stay there year round. Don't leave, and you're going to learn, how to deal with 12 feet of new snow in 2 days, because the best skiers in the world hang out there, and you're going to ski with them and you're going to learn. Right. And so when I lived at Alta for 4 years, and my neighbor was the snow ranger. I go out and dig pits with him. I learned a lot about avalanches. And, I was a, Eagle Scout before I moved up there. I was not, unfamiliar with mountains. I loved them. And so before I got my driver's license, I would take my bicycle and my motorcycle up to the mountains and camp in little caves and stuff. I loved being in the mountains. And so when I moved to Alta, I got to be a really good skier, and I got strong, and I got used to dealing with extreme cold and extremely deep snow. And then I moved to Jackson, where it's even colder. There's not near as much snow, but it's way colder. And, Yellowstone and that kind of, and then you got to deal with the carnivores, but there's more of them up there. But, then I came back to Alta and everything was great, but,
Yeah. Well, did you ever, it seems like you were just built for this, man. I mean, honestly, because I would expect you to be like, yeah, I'm just trudging, 5 hours of breaking trail, and then, I thought I was going to freeze to death, or, it just seems like, it seems like you just kind of took it with a grain of salt. You're like, if you, to last 27 years doing that, it's not.
Oh, I loved it, Josh.
I love that. That's so rad.
When I remember when I got my child support paid off, when I was writing the last check, my mom was sitting there with me, and she was saying, "I'm so proud of you, son. I'm so proud of you." And my hand was literally shaking. I couldn't hardly write the check. But when I paid it off, I was like, now what? I don't have to do this anymore. I can be a normal guy again, And I got back to my house and I said, I love this. I don't want to change. I'm going to keep doing this until they kick me out, because I still don't own the land. And, then Noah, put me in his ski movies, and it turned into the people that live up there in Brighton Estates it's a wonderful community. There's a lot of amazing people that live up there, and, they would come up, and, all the Powderwhores. I had a wonderful, wonderful life to have that place, to myself for so many years. was just, I've skied more of the goods than anybody can imagine.
Yeah. Well, was it, I mean, kind of going back to going back to the Powderwhore stuff, was it, because I believe you met Noah and Jonah at, because they worked at Deer Valley back in the day. I think it's probably how you guys got to know each other, right?
Yeah, Noah was a young lift operator who saw me, freeheeling. And he was like, dude, what in the world is that? Teach me that, And so sure,
So you were the one that taught him how to telemark?
Well, I wasn't the only one,
But that's crazy. I don't know if I ever knew that connection. That's amazing. I knew he was a lift operator, but
yeah. Well, it's funny because, I came from Alta to Deer Valley and there wasn't a lot of people around Deer Valley who knew what that was, So there was a lot of people who, I taught a lot of kids about telemarking then, at Deer Valley. And then one year, I patrolled for a few years and then I took a winter off and I went down to, this was that epic year, 93, that it snowed 5 feet in Salt Lake or something. And I was being a guide, a wilderness survival guide for troubled teenagers down in Escalante. It's a long story, but, I was down there for one winter, 93. And when I came back the next year to patrol at Deer Valley, there wasn't enough snow and they couldn't open. So there were no jobs available. So I had to take a lift operator job, to pay my child support. So I got to be a lifty for a year, and then there's really a lot more lifties than there are patrollers. So then my sphere of influence, increased dramatically. Then you're part of a crew of 100 instead of 20, and people are talking about that crazy guy that lives in the woods that has no heel piece,
You had a couple things that made you stick out.
Yeah. And I the other thing that we haven't touched upon is my coma, and that really was a life-changing deal for me. I was in a coma for 11 days from viral encephalitis.
Where on the timeline of us talking about this did that happen?
That happened when I was age 22. It was right when I moved to Jackson Hole. I was supposed to be the manager of Signal Mountain Lodge and manage 100 kids and, a huge lodge in Teton National Park. And I got this disease and then I was in a coma for 11 days. But when you have something like that happen to you and you recover from it, it teaches you things that you learn in the depths of your soul. And there's no way you can deny those things or pretend that they never happened, or you can't. It's part of your inner soul. And from that point on, from when I recovered from my coma, I was determined to not live the way conventional people live. Okay. Suddenly life was taken away from me and I hadn't gotten to live the way I know I should live, which is in the mountains, trying as hard as I can, and, I was, married with children and doing the, yuppie deal. And then it was over. And, I had not gotten to do what I wanted to do. I was busy being married with children. And so when that was over, I was like, okay, this is my chance. This is my chance to build my hut in the woods and ski back and forth and be a real mountain man. Okay. I got nothing left to lose. I've lost my kids, my wife, my house, my car, my job, my everything. And, you know, what are you going to do, Todd? You know? So, okay, I found this canyon. There's nobody back here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to build myself a little hut and be a mountain man like I've always dreamed of doing. And so that the coma is kind of the antagonist of the whole story. You know, the little virus that lived in the mouse turd that I ate by accident, you know. But you need to buy my books, okay? Go out there on Amazon, Todd Stuart. Nobody owes you tomorrow.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'll put links to them in the show notes for people to find them. And I remember when I read that book years ago. I need to reread it. I probably should have done a little refresh before we hopped on, but it's I remember the biggest takeaway. Like I remember thinking about time, you know, and just thinking to myself, like, yeah, like you said, I mean, the whole idea is like, what are we doing half of the time? You know, like, what are we filling our time with? And I don't know. And I think meeting you really has always, I mean, that's why I wanted to get you on here, because I feel like your story is so powerful, man. I mean, it's like you had time. You had time to actually do what you wanted to do. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, and that's why I named all 4 books together. I Have Time. That's the name of the series of books, because we all have time. We all have 24 hours a day, and it's up to us and only us to decide what to do with it. Okay, and you know, I can spend 4 hours breaking trail home, or I can wait in traffic for an hour and go to the gym for an hour and wait in traffic for another hour. And, you know, everyone gets the same amount of time. And when it gets to the end of your life, I know what it means to see your life flash before your eyes. You know, that's the closest words can say, you know, what's it like to see your life pass before your eyes, you know? Well, it doesn't happen like that, but when you have 11 days of dark pain to think about every mistake you've ever made, you know, that's a long time.
Well,
and so I'm almost in tears right now, Josh, as thinking about the pain that I endured. They did 6 spinal taps on me when I was unconscious in that coma.
Jeez.
And, you know, one of them is enough to name a band after, right? Spinal Tap.
Yeah,
you ever heard of that band?
Turn it up to 11, man.
Well, I don't know. You know, that thing that I remember when I regained consciousness is black pain. And I want to tell you, I didn't know pain could get like that. But when I came back to life, I was and I still am so grateful to be alive. Okay. We're all alive and we take that for granted, but it's not. Okay. Life is precious and fleeting. And we're so lucky.
That's heavy, brother.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to get too heavy on you, but
no. It's really cool to, I mean, not cool to hear that you went through pain, but just the positivity that, you know, you've been able to kind of draw out of that. And then,
I tell you, I live in heaven. Okay. I love this earth like nobody's business. I mean, I tell you what, I live in heaven. I am so in love with this planet and everything that blesses us here that I just can't, I don't understand how people can mistreat the planet. Okay. It's just, I can't comprehend that, you know. But this is the world I'm in, and I have to, you know, live here. And I just really, that's kind of the reason I kept doing what I'm doing, because I need to speak out in defense of the planet, and I can't do it if I'm not walking the walk. Okay. Can't talk the talk without walking the walk. So when my carbon footprint when I lived out the hut was about as small as you can get, right? And so I've earned the right to say, listen, folks, you don't need everything that you consume. Okay, I learned the difference between a want and a need, you know, in a very real way. You know, there's more heaviness. Please stop me if, you know, it's getting too heavy.
No, keep going.
You need air, water, food, shelter, love. That's what Abraham Maslow, his hierarchy of needs, that's what you need. And you'll die trying to get those things. And everything else is a want. Okay, and then, you know, our level of greed and waste in our society is just, it's appalling to me. It's tragic. It's pathetic. You know, but what do you do? You know, I'm a minimalist because I know how little it takes, you know, to actually survive. You know, and somebody wise once said, success isn't how much you have, it's how much you can do without. And so, you know, I kind of live that way, you know, and I've never found a place that's easier to live free than where I live now.
And you're living in Idaho full time now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're more of a little more river than 4 foot snow trudging.
Yeah, you know, that doing what I did kind of wore my lower body out, but there was other things that was kind of broke the camel's back. But yeah, I knew I was wearing my lower body out, so I thought I need to take up an upper body sport, you know. So I need my adrenaline, you know. So I took up kayaking, and then I found the place that I found where, you know, there's good skiing and good kayaking and hunting and fishing and wild edibles and, you know, 8,000 vertical feet of terrain and ecosystems in 5 miles, you know, in walking distance. So I started to set up a place here where I could live off the land. And, you know, it's just it's a place that is so abundant in natural resources, and there's so few people here that it's real easy to live off the land here. And I'm in heaven, you know. I love it. But
I love when you say that, because I believe it.
Well, thanks. You know, every virtue that you associate with heaven, whatever, you know, your idea of heaven is, every virtue is available here, right now. And, you know, you can surround yourself with people who are of like mind, and like, what do you want? Clouds and a harp? Okay, we got clouds, we got harps. Okay, we got, you know, super soft foam beds, and, you know, there's no other place I'd rather be. Okay, this earth is far more precious than we give it credit for, you know. Go out there, keep looking, okay? You might find ones, but okay, we got this one. This is the only one we know of. we need to treat it better, So anyway, that's my soapbox. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry at all, man. I've loved listening, and I'm so glad we got to kind of dig back a little further than I knew, and you just have you're the most genuine dude I know, and I just really appreciate you sharing your story. I think it's incredible what you've done, and are still doing, and I think that's what's so amazing is I don't think people probably get to hear somebody talk that is, for lack of a better word, just living such a pure life. Like you said, like you don't like that quote on success that you said, it's like what you can live without. I mean, it really puts some framework around, at least for me, it makes me think like, what else don't I need? Like, do certain things make me happy or not? And I just, like you said, you've earned the right to talk about that kind of stuff, and I think it's good for all of us to listen.
Well, good. I got a buddy in Montana now. I don't know if you knew this. I inherited some land in Montana up by Glacier, and there's a guy up there who looked me up. He wanted to buy my land from me, and then he called me the other day. He goes, "Are you the Todd Stuart that's in ski movies and has written some books?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Wow, dude, can we talk?" Yeah, And so, he wants to get me on a podcast with Joe Rogan.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know. The only reason I know who Joe Rogan is that one of my girlfriends had a roommate who was trying to be a comedian, and he would go down to the open mic nights in the comedy clubs in Salt Lake. And he had a lot of fun with me, teasing me about being, a backwoodsman, and my ignorance of modern, pop culture, and I think a comedian could have a real good time with me, and I could have a good time with a comedian too. But Rogan's like a bow hunter too. Like he's oh, really?
Yeah, he's an outdoorsman too. And
good.
I would love to see you on Joe Rogan's podcast. That'd be fascinating, man. I think you guys would have some thoughtful conversation, I think, which would be pretty interesting. So if you make the jump to the Joe Rogan podcast from the Freeheel Life podcast, I'm definitely listening. So
okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know how to make those things happen.
No. Well, if Joe Rogan's listening to the Freeheel Life podcast out there, maybe we'll take him telemark skiing, and then you guys can do a podcast together, right?
Well, you better start doing deep knee bends. No, I don't know. People are, everybody telemarks differently. It's kind of weird, because I learned on leather boots, and to me, you got to put all your weight on your big toe, your front big toe. But then after I got plastic boots, I realized you don't have to do that. You can sit on your heels if you want, and it still works.
You brought up the most perfect thing, dude, about you guys had to learn technique, and technique was what made it work. And like, I literally, like, as I'm talking, you have this vivid memory of like this clip of you skiing with your dog chasing you. And it's like, if you haven't skied, that's why I'm such a big fanatic about skiing on retro gear, is because there's a certain sensation that, like, when I watch you ski in those clips, like, it's so amazing that you make it look that easy, because the technique itself isn't easy to learn. And it's traditional, man. I mean, it is. It's very different. A leather boot and the type of skis. It's just such a unique feeling. And actually, funny side note I wanted to tell you about is I learned about Miller Softs from you in the movie.
Yeah. All right.
And guess what I've got? An unmounted pair of Miller Softs sitting in the closet.
Really? Really?
Yep.
Virgins, huh?
Yeah, they're orange top sheets. Miller
Yeah.
Softs. Yep.
And there's no holes drilled in them.
No, there's no holes in them. I'll have to send you a pic.
Wow.
They're buried somewhere. I've been saving them
Yeah.
for. I remembered when I was talking to you. I was like, that's where I learned about Miller Softs was from Todd Stuart.
Well, have you ever flexed them? Just like with your hands?
Yeah, probably when I got them from wherever we got them from. But
well, that's how we used to test a ski. We'd walk around in ski shops and you grab the tip and put your other hand in the footbed and push, and flex them. And when you flex Miller Softs, you get it. These are bouncy skis. Okay. If you flex them, they're going to bounce back, and then you're going to be able to get up out of the powder and see where you're going. And that's seriously what it's like. At Alta, back in those days, it was so deep that you had to jump up out of the snow to see and breathe.
You're doing the timed breath.
Yeah. There were guys that used snorkels, but your spit, your spit gets caught down in the P trap, okay? And then you inhale your spit, and it just doesn't work. It's a nice thought. It's kind of a good conversation piece, in the lip line. But, the neck gaiter filters out, the snow, and you can breathe through a neck gaiter. But, like when I was at the Snow Pine Lodge, this guy I worked with, he broke his leg because he was skiing down high nowhere, and he was under for so long he hit a tree. He didn't know where he was going. He was an expert skier, a racer from back east, but he, was just flying down the mountain, and, he couldn't get up out of the snow. He probably had race skis that didn't bounce, and he hit a tree, and then he broke his leg, and he got himself down out of there. But guess what he did? He cooked during the day for me so I could ski all day, every day, and I could cook at night. His name was John Dennison, and I pray that he's listening. But, that was a really, human thing to do. Bless your soul, brother, He didn't have to do that. But, and the other thing is that with skinny skis, they don't float unless you're going really fast. And so, like, I remember times skiing home off the back of Deer Valley, but I would have to be on my tiptoes, standing as tall as I could possibly stand to see and breathe until I got up enough speed so that they would float and just miss the aspens on the way down.
It's like
just choking.
Yeah, it's like it's like getting enough, like the propeller before liftoff or something.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it's just amazing. Do you know where the word telemark comes from?
Telemark, Norway.
Yeah, there's a plateau in Norway called the Telemark Plateau.
Oh, I did not know about the plateau. I knew about the county of Norway, but I did not know about the plateau.
Yeah. So
I love
Wikipedia.
That.
Isn't that great? Wikipedia.
Well, before we boogie, man, any closing thoughts?
Well, yeah, the ski culture is so rich and so wonderful, and I hope that I'm really proud of you, Josh, for keeping the Freeheel life alive. They say Telemark is dead. I'm sorry. That's just not true, okay? There are fads that come and go, but you know what? People will be Freeheel skiing till, there's no more snow. So, I'm really happy for you. I'm really proud of you for keeping this thing going. You have a vision, and it's a beautiful thing. So pat yourself on the back and give everybody a hug that you meet who knows who I am and says, "Hey, I heard Todd on your podcast. Yeah, he said to give you a hug." So
I'm happy to give hugs out. So
Yeah.
No, thank you so much, man. And it's an honor to call you a friend, and I'm so glad we met so many years ago, and we got to talk on the podcast today. It's been really cool for me just to reminisce and also just learn more about you. And always a good reminder that I got more time to do the things I want.
Yeah, you do. You have to choose, and there's a lot of influences that vie for your time, and you're so lucky, Josh, to be alive and to be free and have the freedom to choose how you're going to spend your time. Okay, to live in this country, in this time, it's just, we're so lucky. So lucky. So, I warned you, didn't I? Before we talked today. What did I say? Do you remember what I texted you?
Oh, that you texted me about. I don't remember what you Did you text me something?
Yeah. I said, Josh, I got to warn you, I may be the happiest man alive.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, I do remember getting that.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it because I already knew that.
Well, and you know why, too. But now you know a little more why. And I hope everybody gets a chance to feel like that, at some point in their life. But it's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to each individual to design your life, okay? It's up to you. You get to the end of it, and if you haven't lived your dreams, you got no one to blame but yourself. And, you can make excuses till the cows come home, but you know what? If it is to be, it is up to me. That's what somebody wise once said. So
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's.
Tell me when it's going to be on, so I can tell my other friends. Hey, listen up.
Oh, I will for sure. And love you, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure I'll wrap back around and get you on here again at some point, because. We can always go deeper and deeper, and you just got such a great story, man. So I hope.
Well, book one, you've read, and there's 2, 3, 4, and I've got 5 going to publish probably this spring. I can write for the rest of my life.
Well, let's get you back on when you put out that next book. I would love that.
Okay.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Definitely let me know when you're going to publish it, and then we'll get you back on the podcast.
All right.
All right, man. I love you much, and have some happy turns out there for me, bro.
All right. Next ones I make are for you. Love you, brother.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Todd Stuart. Whew. I don't even know where. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation, because I thoroughly did myself. And every time I talk to Todd, I'm just so inspired about checking my time in life, what I'm spending time doing, and it's just precious. And time is precious, life's precious. And I don't know if I've ever met anybody quite like him that just really pulls that into focus for me. And obviously we're brothers of the turn together, and I've always loved that. And I've always just the way we met, I just the fact that I was like a park skier back in those days, predominantly that's kind of what people knew me for in that movie, for instance. And then he's like this hippie dude living in a hut in the mountains, and it just kindred spirits, and I'm just so grateful that we met along the way, and that he could share his story on the podcast. I'm just incredibly grateful to know people like that. So I hope you all enjoyed the chat, and definitely pick up one of his books. And like I said, I need to catch up on some of the latter ones, but make sure to check out the link for those books and where you can get them in the show notes. So, as always, sign up for the mailing list. That's where we're going to be in touch with you on the weekly, and we want to make sure you don't miss anything as we're going along. So mailing list is very important. We would love to be your preferred Telemark shop as always. And I know we're in January, but it's a good time to buy gear always. And we're always there for you. And we want to make sure that you know that our expertise, we really strive hard to make sure we know what we're talking about. So when you get us on the line, we can get you an answer that you need. And thanks for being part of the Freeheel Life family there. Also, telemarksgear.com, articles, gear reviews, and more. Head on over there. And you can always hit me up at podcast@freeheellife.com. Really appreciate you listening. Had a great time chatting with Todd, and glad you could check it out. And I'll be back next Monday. Telemark Pirate Radio coming at you. Make sure to get me that info ASAP so I can talk about it, your little meetups, gatherings, whatnot. And I'll do my best to get it out across the galactic interweb waves. And until next week, folks, spread Telemark always.